Gervonta Davis updates everyone on the status of his upcoming fight with Lamont Roach. And it doesn't disappoint because the usual suspects done lied again. Let's talk about that in this video. Gervonta Davis fight is canceled because Gervonta Davis wanted too much money. He was only offered $3 million for the fight. And as a result, they made up an excuse. And the fight in Houston, Texas, December 14th with Lamont Roach is canceled. That was the story that was put out in the media yesterday, despite the fact that the original report said from Dan Rayfield that there was a 50-50 shot that the fight may get moved off of December 14th and to February. Now, before I get into the details, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. And let me tell you very straight, thank you to everybody that supports in the super thanks. That is absolutely the best way to support this channel and on this video, that is, and also helps other people on other channels if you like their videos. But for sure, thank you to everybody that tips and helps sponsor this video in the super thanks. Let's get into this because I told you so. Yesterday, if you listened to my video, I told you so. There's an announcement that came out from Dan Rayfield. Dan Rayfield is a reputable journalist. He is someone that takes care with the words that he uses and someone that is not willy-nilly saying things that are not true and or things that he could not have verified to a certain extent. And to the extent that he verifies it, when he tells you what he heard, he lets you know what he heard and he doesn't overdo it. So when Dan Rayfield reported that his sources said that it was 50-50 about whether or not the fight between Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach was going to get moved, I said, okay, well, that sounds reasonable to me because number one, he's saying that it's a 50-50 chance that it'll get moved, which means it's a 50-50 chance it's going to stay there, right? So no real panic. It's more, just as likely that that fight is going to be on December 14th as it is going to as if it would be if the date moved, right? Still 50-50. Now, that didn't stop people from speculating exactly like I told you they would by saying that the PBC is going out of business, that the PBC wants to re-up or amped up the card so that the PBC can actually sell the fight. And from there, you had all kind of people talking about things like, no, David Benavidez. Literally, people said this, that the reason that Gervonta Davis was going to be moving over to February 25th is they weren't confident that they could sell the Gervonta Davis fight. So they wanted to strengthen up the undercard, put David Benavidez on the undercard, and allow David Benavidez to fight David Morrell. Right? And that's why the card was moving. They also said it was Gervonta Davis's desire to have the fight in Houston, Texas, and not LA that was part of the issue as well, because the PBC wanted the fight to be in Vegas in February, right? So all of those things are going on, but Gervonta Davis was very clear. He gave one word on saying that this fight was not happening December 14th. And the word he used was cap. That's not true. We're not moving it. Now, what is the truth of the matter? We'll find out when the fight is announced and when the fight is made. But let me share this with you. Because again, I told you that this is what was going to happen. As soon as somebody said that Gervonta may move a fight, all of a sudden you're going to get a bunch of information from inside sources that cannot be verified and ultimately will wind up not being true. So take, for example, the fact that certain people said that he turned down a $3 million offer. $3 million offer, even though that man has a guarantee from Amazon Prime. He turned down $3 million, and that's why they couldn't do it, because they couldn't afford him to pay Gervonta any more than $3 million. Look, the reason that this stuff comes out and the reason that these things are said is to throw doubt and throw shade upon Gervonta Davis's event. Right now, you can go back to Google and look at what Floyd Mayweather Jr. himself did to Gervonta Davis, and spread a rumor a couple times that Gervonta Davis's fights were canceled. Floyd Mayweather literally did this before the Frank Martin fight. So now you have some source going to Dan Rayfield and telling Dan Rayfield there's a 50-50 chance this thing may be off. Right? So there's been more than one time that Gervonta Davis's fights have been said to have been canceled by somebody. This time, the person didn't just put it on the internet. They went to themselves. They went to Dan Rayfield and gave it to him as sources so that they could give it out. Now, if this fight with Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach actually happens on December 14th, remember all of this stuff happened. Remember that people came out and acted like they knew exactly why it was the fight was not going to take place. But do not get on Dan Rayfield, because Dan Rayfield said it's 50-50. Now, my take on why it could be 50-50. If you look from the outside looking in, right? The outside looking in. Let's look at the fact that people were saying that David Benavidez would be on the card. That would not be for the benefit of Gervonta Davis that David Benavidez was on the card. Some commentator literally said to David Benavidez, like, no, David, don't do this. Don't get on the pay-per-view card with Gervonta. They're just trying to steal the credit for all your pay-per-view buys. David Benavidez is nowhere near a pay-per-view star, but yet and nowhere near as popular as Gervonta Davis. But yet you literally have people out here telling him, oh, don't get on Gervonta Davis's pay-per-view card. They're just trying to take advantage of you by selling a lot of pay-per-views. As if Gervonta Davis didn't sell way more pay-per-views without David Benavidez on the card than he did with him on the card. He did 1.2 million without him on the card. But you know what it is. Always trying to find a way to give credit to somebody else for Gervonta Davis's pay-per-view numbers. Now, but why would I say that would cause what that would actually be something that they would want to happen? Want David Benavidez to be on the card with Gervonta. It does boost the card, but you know who else it boosts? It also boosts David Benavidez. It also is a Mexican fighter that could be fighting on Las Vegas, and that fighter could be on a Gervonta Davis card, and David Benavidez grows because he's one of the fighters that the PBC wants to build up for the future. So they do what Gervonta Davis had happen with him on Floyd Mayweather's card by when Floyd Mayweather Jr. put him on a card. So that's all more than likely they're doing with David Benavidez. And David Morrell is saying, hey, man, we need to build more stars. We got a big event coming up here. We got two really big fighters that fight on the network. We've got Canelo Alvarez, so we want people on the card, good fighters on the card and the undercard for Canelo Alvarez so we can get them exposure. And we want David Benavidez on Gervonta Davis's card so we can get David Benavidez exposure. So eventually when David Benavidez does fight Canelo Alvarez, if he does, then the name is big enough and everybody's seen him fight. But no, it's always got to be that for some reason Gervonta Davis or the PBC is failing at something. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. I am very, very happy that Gervonta Davis spoke out and said that's cap. So we'll see what happens, right? Obviously, we got to see what happens. We'll see when the fight takes place. But remember, they specifically and purposely put this doubt in your mind, in other people's mind, about whether or not this fight was going to happen, which does what? Makes people wonder whether or not they need to be buying tickets, what city they need to go to, whether or not they're going to get their plans together. When people do that, it shuts off everybody's plans because they don't know when the fight is going to be or where the fight is going to be. Right? Off of a rumor. Anyway, that's my take. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.